So keto Thanksgiving. That means you can have some turkey, but you can't have the dressing. Or can you? Stick around and find out. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a keto-friendly dressing that will go perfect with your Thanksgiving feast. I'm going to use my cornbread recipe. I'm going to use a few other ingredients that you probably already have around. And we're going to put this together, pair it with my gravy, and we'll have the perfect Thanksgiving side dish. I know y'all are ready to get cooking, so let's get in here and get cooking. Okay, so let me show you what we need to make this keto dressing. You're going to need some cornbread. I'm making half a batch of this today. I'm going to put the recipe for this half batch and the full batch down in the description for you. And I'll put the link to the cornbread recipe down below for you. You're going to need some butter. You're going to need your favorite keto bread. Now, it says right here, keto certified. There's really no such thing. I don't recommend eating that stuff very often, but around the holidays, because I like to eat this, and we tend to do sandwiches and things like that with leftovers. So we usually get it around this time of year, but I don't recommend keeping this all the time for sure. You're going to need some chicken bone broth. I like this bone broth concentrate, as you know, so you can make your own, but you can use a carton also. You're going to need an onion. You're going to need eggs. You're going to need celery. And then for our seasonings, we're going to season this with parsley, some black pepper, some ground thyme. Now, you can use the regular thyme as well. A lot of times I'll have it out in my garden. I grow a lot of my own herbs, but I really like the ground thyme better for this recipe. Then you're going to need some sage. You're going to need some garlic powder, and you're going to need some salt. So I'm going to measure these out, and then I'll show you how to put it together. So what I'm going to do here is start to melt this butter, and I'm going to saute the celery and onions right in here, get them a little soft, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So what I've done, I just have a bread pan here, and I've sprayed it with this avocado oil spray, and this is the one I use. I get this at Aldi. I've also toasted 2 slices of this bread. We're going to crumble that in. And I've diced that onion and diced that celery. So I'm going to take those over and saute those in the butter, get those real happy, and then we'll come back and start putting it together. Well, my butter is getting real happy over here, so what I'm going to do is bring over celery and onions and dump those right in. I really like these little cutting sheets like this. I'll put a link to those down below because it's real handy transporting stuff back and forth without having to bring a whole huge cutting board over. So I'm just going to let those work for a few minutes. Now this is salted butter. I love using this Kerrygold salted butter, so I don't add any additional salt to this. But you could if you like it a little saltier. We're going to adjust for the seasoning a little bit later. Man, I just love that sound right there. So let these work for a few minutes, and I'll be right back. Now these onions and that celery is getting real happy in here. So what I'm going to do is take these off the heat. I'm going to move over to where I have crumbled up the bread in a big mixing bowl. I'm going to pour all this together and add the spices in. So what I've done here is crumble the cornbread and the regular bread in here. I'm just going to bring these onions and celery in and dump them right in there. And then I'm going to grab my seasonings and put those in and stir it up. So I dump my onions and celery in. I'm going to go ahead and go in with the spice blend. I just mixed everything together. I'm going to mix this up, and I'll show you what it looks like in just a minute. I just gave that a little taste, and it is tasting pretty good. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit of salt. I think that's the only thing it needs at this point. So I'm just going to add a little salt there. I'm going to beat the eggs, pour those in, kind of mix it up, and see what it tastes like then. And hey, if you don't like raw eggs, one of 2 things: get a new egg person, or you can just taste it like that and then readjust your seasonings when it comes out of the oven. I'm just going to dump the eggs in, and I'm going to start to stir it up. So let me incorporate these eggs first, and then I'm going to start adding a little bit of that chicken bone broth at a time until we get this saturated, and I'll show you what that looks like. Now I'm starting this half batch with about 3/4 of a cup, maybe a little more, of this bone broth. So I'm just going to pour about 1/4 of it in. That was more like a half. And I'm going to stir it up and see what kind of moisture level we have. You don't want any of the bone broth sitting in there, but you want it to be pretty well absorbed inside this dressing. And this soaked that up pretty good. That's some thirsty dressing. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in about half of what I have left and stir it up. And let's see how it looks after this. All right, so I mixed that in. As you can see, I've kind of put it up on the side so you can see there's no moisture down there. You got a little bit right there. So you want it a little bit more than that, but you don't want any of the liquid sitting in there. So I'm going to add the rest of this, incorporate it in. I think it's going to be perfect. Let me stir this up and we'll see if it's right or if we're going to need more bone broth. So that looks pretty much perfect. I'm going to pull this back up on the side just to make sure. But it's pretty much moistened all the way through. I know a lot of people hate that word moist, but I don't know what else to say. So I'm going to tilt this over. You got just a tiny bit of the bone broth running. So that's perfect. This is what you want. I'm going to put it in this bread pan, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I've got it in my bread pan. I'm just going to kind of flatten that out a little bit. And for this half batch, I'm just going to check it. So I'm going to put that in the 350 oven, and we will check on it in just a few minutes. Oh, and by the way, I tasted for the seasoning on this. Ended up adding a little more salt, a little more sage, and a little more thyme. So I'm going to leave the recipe the way it is in case you don't like those ingredients, but you may want to adjust it yourself. So I'm going to cover this with foil, and because it's a half batch, I'm going to cook it for 20 minutes. Then I'm going to take the foil off and finish it uncovered in the oven. You do the same thing with the full batch, but you're going to cook it for about 30 minutes in the oven and then uncover it for about 15 more. So let me get this in there. I'll show you what it looks like after 20 minutes. So I'm just going to remove the foil now. And we'll continue cooking it for another 10 to 15 minutes. So that's what our dressing looks like when it's done. I'm going to go ahead and cut a little slice here. Just get it all around the edges. I'm going to take this piece out. Put it right here on the plate. And I just like to finish it with a little bit of this keto gravy. Or a lot of the keto gravy. That's really what I prefer. I hope y'all see how easy that is to do, how delicious it's going to be, and I hope you'll make it a part of your Thanksgiving. I've got a few more Thanksgiving or frankly any holiday side dish recipes. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe right down there. Hit that bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and get your health right.